A rainy afternoon in Brisbane, and Bluey and Bingo are bored inside the house. They beg Bandit to take them to the old arcade in town, a dusty place filled with vintage machines from the 80s. "Alright kids, but just for an hour," says Bandit, and soon they're surrounded by blinking lights and electronic beeps. Amid the familiar games, Bluey spots a strange cabinet in the corner, labeled Polybius, with a sleek black screen and no instructions. "Look at this one, it looks mysterious," she says, inserting a coin. The screen flickers to life with swirling patterns of colors and shapes, pulling them into a hypnotic puzzle game where blocks shift and reform endlessly. As they play, the game feels oddly addictive. The patterns speed up, colors pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats, and faint whispers encourage them to keep going. Bingo feels a headache coming on, but Bluey can't stop. Just one more level. The arcade around them seems to fade, the other machines dimming as Polybius' screen grows brighter. Bandit notices the girls staring blankly, their eyes glazing over, but when he tries to pull them away, the game emits a low hum that makes his head spin too. Hours pass in what feels like minutes. The sisters' visions blur. The arcade transforms into the game's world, with blocky walls closing in and shadows forming impossible shapes. Whispers turn to commands. Solve the puzzle, or stay trapped. Bluey sees visions of forgotten players, their faces frozen in eternal stares, while Bingo feels her thoughts scattering like puzzle pieces. The machine's influence spreads. Other kids in the arcade gather around, drawn like moths to the light, their laughter turning hollow. Bandit shakes off the daze and realizes something's wrong. He rallies Chili over the phone, and together they research the game's legend, a rare prototype said to cause blackouts and lost time. With quick thinking, Bandit unplugs the machine, shattering the trance. The screen goes dark and the arcade returns to normal, the hypnotic pull vanishing. Shaken but safe, the family heads home, deciding to stick to outdoor adventures from now on. The experience teaches them the value of real-world fun over mysterious screens, strengthening their bond through shared stories of the weird arcade day. A warm day in Brisbane, and the Healer family decides to have a picnic in the nearby park. Bluey and Bingo, full of enthusiasm, run across the grass when they suddenly notice a strange group of figures on the horizon. It's the Peppa Pig family, but something is off. Peppa, George, Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig look as usual, but their smiles are too wide, their eyes empty and their movements jerky, like marionettes on invisible strings. "Hello friends, let's play in the muddy puddles," calls Peppa in a voice that sounds like an echo from an old TV, with a slight crackle and distortion. Bluey, always ready for adventures, agrees, and the sisters approach closer. But as the game progresses, the park changes. The grass becomes sticky like mud and the sky darkens, though the sun is still high. Peppa suggests playing jumps in the puddles, but the puddles are black, bottomless pits from which whispers emerge. "Jump deeper forever." George oinks, but his oinking turns into a low guttural growl and his eyes redden like a demon's. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig stand motionless, their faces stretching into smiles that reveal too many teeth, whispering, families should be together in the mud. As the game continues, reality distorts. Bluey feels her paws sinking into the ground, which becomes alive and pulls downward, while Bingo sees Peppa's friends, Susie Sheep, Zoe Zebra, emerging from the fog with empty eyes repeating, "Play with us or stay alone." Voices from nowhere mimic the Healer parents. Bluey, Bingo, join the new family. But it's Peppa, her mouth opening wider than possible, revealing infinite darkness inside. The park turns into a swamp full of whispers and shadows, where muddy puddles swallow everything that falls into them, and the pig family grows, their forms distorting, becoming huge and shapeless. Bandit and Chili search for their daughters, but they hear only the echo of Peppa's laughter, which becomes hysterical and sinister. Tension builds. Peppa pulls Bluey by the paw into a puddle, whispering, "Become one of us forever in the mud," while George jumps at Bingo, his small body expanding into a monster. The sisters try to run, but the ground clings and the voices shout, "Family forever." But at the last moment, Bluey cries, "This isn't a real game," and they break free, bursting through the illusion. The pig figures dissolve into the mud, leaving only an echo of oinking. The ominous finale. That evening, as the healers dine, a familiar Peppa Pig tune plays from the TV, but the screen glitches and Peppa stares directly at them, whispering, "Come back to play, in the puddles." The screen fades under the sound of bubbling mud, leaving a feeling that they're watching. A sunny day at the healer house, and Bluey and Bingo decide to play an old Sonic video game on Dad's computer. "Let's collect rings and save our friends," exclaims Bluey, launching the cartridge they found in a box of ancient treasures. The game starts as usual. The blue hedgehog runs through green hills, collecting rings to cheerful music. But as they progress through the levels, things change. The colors become brighter, almost painfully so, and the background distorts as if the screen is melting. Suddenly, a strange character appears. Sonic with red eyes, bloody streaks on his face, and a smile full of sharp teeth. "I am God," flashes a message on the screen, and the music slows down, turning into a distorted, roaring noise. The sisters keep playing, but reality begins to merge with the game. The room darkens though the sun is still shining, and pixelated rings appear on the walls, spinning in the air. Bingo feels a chill as Sonic XE stares directly at them through the screen, his eyes tracking every movement. "Run but you can't escape," comes a voice from the speakers, low and raspy like a demon's laugh. The game levels fill with bloody pools, and Sonic's friends, Tails and Knuckles, turn into twisted corpses, whispering, "Join us, Bluey." Bingo. The computer refuses to turn off, the screen flickering and showing reflections of the sisters inside the game they're running through endless loops, pursued by the blue horror. As the game continues, the nightmare intensifies. Bluey feels her paws on the keyboard growing heavy, as if chained, while pixelated spikes materialize in the room, scratching the floor. Bingo sees their toys come to life, their eyes turning red and mouths stretching into smiles, repeating, "I am God." Sonic X's voice echoes through the house. "You're in my game, forever." The parents, Bandit and Chili, hear the noise, but when they enter they see only a flickering screen with the sisters sitting motionless, their eyes empty like the characters. Tension builds. The demon steps beyond the screen, his blue form glitching in the air, extending clawed hands toward the sisters, whispering, "Collect the rings or die." But at the last moment Bluey shouts, "This isn't a real game," and they yank the cord, smashing the computer. The screen goes dark, the shadows vanish, but the ending is ominous. That night the computer turns on by itself, showing a menu with a new level, Bluey XA. Night falls over the healer home deeply and silently. The full moon shines brightly through the window, casting long, eerie shadows that slowly dance across the walls, creating a sense of impending doom. A thick tension hangs in the air, as if an invisible wind threatens to tear the roof off the house. Bandit paces restlessly in the living room, feeling a strange building pressure within. Something primal and uncontrollable stirring beneath his skin, making his heart race. His pores gradually darken, thick fur rapidly sprouting along his limbs, his body involuntarily shuddering in painful convulsions, muscles tensing and stretching. His eyes flash with a yellow predatory glow, sharp claws bursting from his fingers, leaving deep scratches on the wooden floor with each uncertain step. The transformation completes suddenly and terrifyingly. Bandit becomes a massive wolf, larger and more menacing than any wild beast from the forest. His deep, piercing howl fills the night air, echoing through the surroundings, penetrating every room and sending an icy shiver down the spines of Bluey and Bingo. They huddle tightly under their blankets. Even in the darkness, their small bodies tremble with fear, forcing them to stay quiet, listening to every rustle behind the door. Shadows in the house come alive, creeping and stretching like sentient beings with minds of their own, creating a feeling of confinement as the walls seem to close in. Furniture creaks and bends under invisible pressure, like the breath of ancient forgotten forces awakening under the cover of night. Bandit the werewolf prowls the hallways, his footsteps echoing heavily in the emptiness, desperately trying to maintain control over the beast within, fighting wild instincts that demand freedom, destruction, and a hunt under the moonlight. In his mind, vivid saving memories flash. The ringing laughter of family at dinner, the warmth of everyday games with the kids, Chili's gentle voice calling him back to reality. These thoughts, like an anchor, battle the darkness inside, helping him not to lose himself in the depths of the animal mind, not to let the rage fully consume his reason. The moon slowly hides behind a dense veil of clouds, and with the fading light, Bandit's monstrous form begins to recede. Fur sheds like morning mist dissipating in the wind. Claws softly retract. He falls to his knees, exhausted and gasping, trembling from the horror and fatigue endured. The first rays of dawn gently filter into the house, filling it with warm, soothing light and silence. Bluey and Bingo cautiously peek out from their room, eyes full of worry and relief, hearts still pounding from the night's terrors. They see their father back as himself, vulnerable but alive and whole. The house envelops in deep peace, as if the night itself retreats, giving way to a new day full of fresh hope, healing and quiet family moments. A bright sunny day at the Healer house, and Bluey and Bingo decide to have a treasure hunt in the old closet. They rummage through boxes of forgotten things, giggling over dusty relics. Bluey stumbles upon a strange item, an ancient hourglass carved with images of shadows and eyes, and the sand inside sparkles golden as if alive. "Look, Bingo, it's a magical hourglass!" exclaims Bluey, turning it over. "Let's play time travelers." The sand begins to flow, but instead of a usual stream, it sparkles, and the air in the closet grows heavy, the lamp flickering dramatically, casting long shadows on the walls. The sisters carry the hourglass to the room and the game begins. They imagine turning back time, returning to past adventures. But at the first turn, reality distorts, the room darkens, though daylight still shines outside, and they find themselves in an alternate version of their home. In this reality, fears from the past come alive. Shadows on the walls form figures of long-forgotten monsters from dreams, and their parents Bandit and Chili look pale, whispering, "You shouldn't have touched that." Bingo feels a chill as the sand in the hourglass turns black, and time loops. One moment they are at a picnic in the past where food comes alive and crawls, the next in the future where the house collapses under dramatic red lighting. As the game continues, the nightmare grows. Each turn of the hourglass plunges the family deeper into alternate realities where fears materialize. Bluey sees her favorite toys turn into glowing-eyed predators, while Bingo faces shadow versions of herself, whispering secrets and blaming mistakes. "This isn't a game," Bluey murmurs, but the sand doesn't stop. Time accelerates and the house fills with suspense. Lamps flash, shadows stretch like hands, and a voice echoes from the hourglass. "Your fears are your past and your future." The parents try to intervene, but caught in the time loop they forget who they are, becoming part of the illusion. Tension peaks as the hourglass turns itself, and the family finds themselves in a dark reality where all their fears, loss, loneliness, darkness, come alive under dramatic lighting with shadows dancing like in a theater. "Take us back!" shouts Bingo, but the sand spills faster. At the last moment, Bluey shatters the hourglass. Sand scatters, light returns, and reality stabilizes. The ominous finale. Shards of the hourglass lie on the floor, but one grain still moves, whispering, "Time is not forgotten, it will return." The screen fades to the sound of dripping sand, leaving an echo of ticking clocks. The morning began with its usual cheerful commotion and playful noise, but very soon Bingo started acting strangely. She sat in her room gently swaying, her normally bright voice replaced by a low, raspy murmur. She spoke of things she couldn't possibly know. Old house secrets, long-lost toys, moments when no one else was around. She called it "my new friend." Bluey approached her, trying to figure out what was wrong, but Bingo merely looked up. Her gaze lacked its usual spark, and her irises seemed darker than normal. The voice emanating from Bingo was alien, adult, and very, very malicious. It mocked Bluey, knew her deepest fears, and whispered that soon everyone will play by our rules. Bandit and Chili initially thought Bingo was just inventing a new game, but as the alien voice spoke through Bingo more frequently, as her movements became jerky and angular, and her laughter turned into a cold, hollow sound, they realized this was no game. The voice used Bingo to pit the parents against each other, revealing their minor grievances and frustrations, forcing them to argue and drift apart. One night, as Bingo slept, a piercing, inhuman wail erupted from her room, rattling the windows. Bluey and her parents rushed in. Bingo lay in her bed, arched unnaturally, and from her ribs a faint, pulsing light seemed to emanate. The voice emanating from her grew louder and more powerful, filling the entire room, declaring its intent to break free and seize the house. When Bandit tried to approach and hug Bingo, her small paw seemed to clench with inhuman strength, pushing him back. The alien voice laughed, and that laughter echoed from Bingo and from the room's walls simultaneously, as if the house itself was becoming part of the entity. The episode ended with the family terrified, retreating. Bingo slowly rose from the bed. Her eyes were now completely black, and her body seemed too tall and thin. The alien voice spoke one last time, not from Bingo but from everywhere at once. To play now, it will be us. Then the light in the room went out. When it came back on, Bingo was gone. In her place stood the very entity she had called friend, a tall, dark figure, like a stretched shadow, from which only that same low, raspy voice emanated. The entity slowly extended its long paw towards Bluey. The screen went black.